My name is Stephanie Shipley. I am a Focus missionary and the team director here at University of Kentucky. I am the overseer of the team of Focus missionaries. We have 5 Focus missionaries here at the University of Kentucky. And before I was a missionary, I went to school at Georgia Southern University. And I was there for biology pre-med. My plan for post-grad was grad school for prosthetics and orthotics, so more the therapy side of fitting prosthetic limbs to people, getting them back on their feet. I was very involved with Focus all in college at Georgia Southern, and so the idea of becoming a Focus missionary was always there. So by the time senior year came around, I applied and went to interview weekend, and it was very natural. I wish I could say I had this great moment of the Lord called and I had this huge heart for his people back then. But it was just more of like a natural, and the Lord made it very natural and logical for me to say yes.
My name is George Rodriguez. Everybody knows me as Cheeky, and I am the VP of International Programs for Blue Missions. Blue is not a color. It doesn't mean water. Blue is actually an acronym that stands for Building Love, Uniting Everyone, and that's at the essence of what Blue Missions does. My role at Blue Missions is basically to bring volunteers to the Dominican Republic to experience and be able to build our 3 main programs, which is water, sanitation, and filters. I joined Blue Missions, it's going to be 5 years in July. Basically, my son invited me to quit my corporate job, which I had done for over 30 years. I came from a background of sales and marketing, and he felt that he needed someone that was a seasoned, experienced person, and he was able to convince my wife and I for me to make that jump. But I knew that in some ways this call to serve was not necessarily from Danny, right? It was really from our Lord saying, hey, you've brought your children to this and now your children are bringing you to this. I think you need to say yes, right? And we trusted that on the monetary side things would be okay and God would provide. And I have an incredible wife who also has sacrificed a lot for me to be able to do this. And you can't be at this place and be interviewed with these questions without mentioning that there's a lot of people that are supporting you as well.
Yes, the quote, "A man truly finds himself in a sincere gift of self." I immediately think of Jesus, who's the greatest fulfillment of that quote, and the greatest gift of a self that any man has made is Jesus on the cross. And so, I immediately think of just Jesus and imitating Jesus's gift of self. What that looks like kind of for me and what it means more in my own life is just in the everyday moments of opportunities to give of myself rather than take from other people. And I have truly found that when I give myself away, when I'm living for other people, living for Jesus himself, the smallest of ways, the biggest of ways, and just simply doing a favor for a friend, washing the dishes for my roommates. My life is more fulfilled. My life has more joy. Doesn't mean there's not pain and suffering in it, but I find joy even in the suffering.
I met God at a young age as a teenager, and as I've shared before, once you meet Him, service becomes the requirement in your life. You're not too clear when you're young exactly how you're going to serve, but you've been called to serve. And then eventually life happens, right, and opportunities come. In the case of Blue Missions or that prior organization that I went on 20 years ago called LIFO, it was a bucket list item I had. I wanted to serve the poor in the campos, or what I thought was the poor in the campos. To my surprise, I just found Jesus in the campo. I found our Lord in the campo. I'd like to start, many of our trips with the reflection of who is the poor. And when we come from the first world and we prepare for these trips, we come with a mindset that we are coming to serve others. And it's not until you're immersed in this campo life and this, kind of outside of your normal everyday life back in the United States, you start seeing these beautiful things that happen in the campo, whether it's meeting these special people, it's seeing their values, their traits, such as the value of humility, the value of simplicity, the unconditional love for God, no matter what your condition is.
It was through mission trips and going to these impoverished countries and being with these people that are living a totally different life than I am. And in one aspect, watching them experience this joy experience, finding themselves in their gift of self to each other and to the Lord primarily, but then to each other especially, just how service-oriented they are with each other, how they desire other people's good over their own. So watching that in them, and then also what I always look back to on mission trips is you're just the most fully alive when you're on a mission trip. Why is that? And I always bring it back to that it's just, that is where I give this gift of myself in a more tangible way. And that's what makes me fully alive.
And one of the things I hear a lot in the youth is, I think I found my purpose. Changing my degree because now I want to be this or I want to be that. There's this definite roller coaster ride in the human being of trying to find themselves, of trying to find their purpose. I can safely say that, I have found myself, and it stems from serving others. Now, Blue is not the only entity that has, allowed me to do that. When I was in my corporate life, I also had myself, I believe, I found myself, and it's not that different than today, except it was in a corporate environment. But, I clearly knew what I had to do. My job description was, X for the corporation, but it always became X plus something else. And that something else was hopefully being a good example, a good Christian example for those people around me. So if anything, I found myself in the corporate world, but it's skyrocketed now, and it's clearer than ever at Blue Missions. You don't find yourself just because you go to Africa and dig wells, or come to the Dominican Republic and do these projects, or you're a nurse and serve people at a hospital. You really find yourself in serving, no matter what the title is, no matter who the employer is. Because our Lord has created us to serve others. That is what He did when He came to this earth. Right? It was so clear that if we look at Jesus' job description, it was all about serving. It was all about serving. It was all about serving. And once we want to follow Him, we then have to figure out, okay, what did Jesus do that I would like to do? And really, it's serving. It's all about serving. So if I'm a doctor, serve well. If I'm an architect, serve well. If I'm an engineer, serve well. If I'm the VP of International of a nonprofit that goes to the Dominican Republic to build latrines and water projects, serve well.
I think the theme of this video is just everything, but I would say you will be found in a sincere gift of self. And so that's all that matters in terms of what you decide to do, where you decide to go, who you decide to marry, what vocation you decide to enter, to choose, that it's all about that gift of self. That as long as you're doing it with that gift of self in mind, no matter what the Lord calls you to, it's about Him. And so whether it's in accounting, whether it's as a doctor, whether it's as a missionary, whether gets married, being a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, whatever it is, it just needs to be all about him and a sincere gift of self.